This story is about 3 houses and 3 families. On the first day of construction, terrifying rumors spread as human skeletons were discovered while digging the foundations. Even the police were alarmed. What was more astonishing was that they couldn't determine why there were bodies at that location or the identities of the deceased. All of this cast a dark shadow over the houses before they were even completed. However, the 3 families investing in the construction, namely the Andersons, the Mitchells, and the Campbells, did not halt the project due to this. Soon, the 3 4-story houses were completed, and the joyful scene of moving in erased any unpleasant memories. The 3 households began their lives in the new environment with great excitement. A week later, news of the passing of old Anderson from the Anderson family came out. It was said that he died from cancer. However, everyone knew that old Anderson had always been in good health. Moreover, there were no signs indicating that he had a terminal illness until his sudden demise. Including the Anderson family, everyone believed that even old Anderson himself was unaware of his illness. He had a habit of regular medical checkups, and according to his doctor's reports, his cancer seemed to have developed overnight. This was highly implausible and unbelievable, yet it happened. Some people linked it to the discovery of the body on the first day of construction, and rumors about vengeful spirits began to circulate. In the shortest time possible, the Anderson family moved away. 2 months later, the Mitchell family became the center of attention again when a fire engulfed their home, claiming the lives of all family members. Afterward, despite police investigations, no specific cause could be determined, and everything remained hypothetical. "Honey, can we move? Please?" The wife of the remaining family, Mrs. Campbell, timidly asked Mr. Campbell. Her fear was not unfounded. However, everyone knew that Mr. Campbell was a typical atheist who abhorred anyone mentioning such absurd things. The incidents of the 2 previous families had already become widely known, and ghostly legends had taken root. Some even predicted that the Campbell family would also face a tragedy within a year. Apart from Mr. Campbell and their 3-year-old son, the Campbell family had 2 women, Mrs. Campbell and Mr. Campbell's elderly mother. Women tend to believe in such things more. When Mrs. Campbell spoke in this manner, it was evident that she was genuinely concerned about their safety. However, it was the kind of statement that an atheist despised the most. He roared like thunder, "Move? Move what? Are you really afraid we will die? Do you actually believe in this? It's astonishing that you're a college graduate." Mrs. Campbell was terrified and dared not say anything further. This outcome was already within her expectations. Except for Mr. Campbell and their young child, the 2 women in the family lived in constant trepidation. Especially the elderly mother who clung to her Bible all day long. Mr. Campbell had once found a talisman on himself but immediately discarded it. He had initially tried to prevent the whole family from wearing such things, but he couldn't resist the insistence of the elderly woman. He reluctantly allowed them to wear the talismans but refused to wear one himself. The old woman knew his temper, so she sighed and didn't force him. However, the house became filled with Bibles and Jesus statues in an intensified manner. Mr. Campbell conceded. Perhaps due to the measures taken by the old woman, several months passed without any incidents for the family. On this particular night, he slept in the attic, and unusually, he had the talisman on him. He couldn't explain why he chose to stay here, perhaps hoping to experience that feeling again while wearing the talisman. He wanted to confirm that the disappearance of that sensation had nothing to do with the talisman or those supernatural events. Otherwise, there would be no reason to wear the talisman and still encounter ghosts, indicating that there were no ghosts. However, he had never considered that it might indicate the ghosts' increasing power, as they were no longer afraid of talismans. Nothing happened amid the fierce wind, but suddenly, he felt a very strange sensation. He felt extremely uncomfortable and had a strong urge to leave the attic. It didn't matter where he went, as long as he saw people. He didn't want to stay alone in this place. He quickly got up, ran downstairs, and at the hallway, he turned on the light, but it didn't work. This didn't explain anything since power outages were common during typhoon nights. He felt his way down the stairs, to the second floor, to his wife and child's room. He tried to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. It was locked. While grumbling about why the door was locked, he didn't care if he woke anyone up and pounded on the door vigorously, but there was no response. He decided to use both his hands and feet, as if he wanted to break down the door. He shouted his wife's name at the top of his lungs. When he grew tired, 15 minutes had passed. He had been trapped outside the door for 15 agonizing minutes, and nobody opened the door for him. This was irrational. Could there be nobody inside? On a night like this, why wouldn't they be there? Moreover, judging from the force he used to knock on the door, it should have been broken down already. But it remained intact. He had a feeling as if his whole being was about to explode. Suddenly, he rushed to the third floor and desperately knocked on his mother's door while shouting. His voice was as loud as the howling typhoon, but still, nobody opened the door. Fortunately, he was strong enough not to faint on the spot. He managed to return to the attic, but he had no energy left to think about anything. He didn't sleep a wink that night and sat there until daybreak. When he went downstairs, he saw that the 2 doors that he couldn't open last night were now open. None of the family members were missing, and they were all having breakfast. He asked his family why they didn't open the door for him last night. They insisted that they didn't hear anyone knocking and swore by it. Could it be that he couldn't be heard through such a thin door? Did the sound of the typhoon really drown everything out to that extent? But he couldn't help but believe his family's words. They had no reason to deceive him. His own conviction was wavering more and more, but he forced himself to stick to the analysis he made of his strange encounter. On the first day of construction in the house, such an inauspicious incident occurred, causing everyone to be overshadowed by it. As a result, the 2 families had unfortunate incidents under this shadow, and everyone associated it with ghosts and deities. Although he didn't believe, there were subconscious impressions within him. Therefore, due to this special psychological effect, his mindset changed drastically, and he interpreted random events as encounters with ghosts, for example, sudden physical discomfort that could be explained by his own sudden cramp or poor blood circulation, but he linked it to ghosts. This psychological effect became even stronger and eventually turned into a habit. He encountered the same thing every time he went to the attic. As for the events encountered on the night of the typhoon, they were a manifestation of the subconscious fear. This indicated that the belief in ghosts still had a deep place in his heart. So he was afraid and ran to knock on the door in this feeling. And on a night of typhoon, people tend to sleep early and sleep heavily, so no matter how he knocked, they didn't react. That's right, that's right. This explanation makes perfect sense. This is the truth of the matter. It's really annoying to have scared myself like that. How cowardly. And he just let this foolish matter slip from his mind. Mr. Campbell used these thoughts to forcefully convince himself, but he knew very well that this explanation was full of loopholes. Yet he preferred to deceive himself rather than be driven insane by the invisible pressure. Not long after, Mr. Campbell's youngest son started crying and causing a commotion at home, saying that there was an invisible bad person bullying him. This incident caused a sensation in the family. After the grandmother checked, she found that her grandson wasn't wearing the talisman, so she concluded that he encountered ghosts because of that. Mrs. Campbell also mentioned that she sometimes had similar experiences when she wasn't wearing the talisman. The whole family became anxious and begged Mr. Campbell to move, but he insisted on his own beliefs and tried to pacify the crowd with his theories. However, no one listened, and the entire family remained enveloped in a gloomy atmosphere. A few more days passed, and unable to bear the family atmosphere, Mr. Campbell declared that they would wait for 1 more week. If something happened again, they would move. The family found themselves in a conflicting situation. They hoped to move but didn't want anything to happen. So they continued living day by day in this state of contradiction. Mr. Campbell's plan was to resolve the matter completely within these few days. The first step was to make direct contact with the alleged ghost, if it truly existed, and confront the situation head-on. Surprisingly, this skeptic had come to believe wholeheartedly in the existence of that entity. In order to make contact, Mr. Campbell did not wear a talisman and secretly went up to the attic at night, without the knowledge of his family. The following day, Mr. Campbell's body was discovered on the 4th floor, and despite thorough investigation, the cause of death remained unknown. What left a deep impression on all the witnesses was the expression on Mr. Campbell's face, a confident smile. The Campbell family ultimately did not move and continued to live in the house. Moreover, they no longer wore talismans because they discovered that no ghostly events had occurred since Mr. Campbell's death. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more amazing and scary stories. Also, please click the like button to support our program. If you want to submit your own story, please send it to our address at midnightwhisper@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.